Hi guys, I'm Dominic Vose and this is Dragonheart.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Dragonheart, where we will be talking about a little bit of a boring game on the weekend, wasn't it, lads? It wasn't the best. I think we'll be going over that a little bit. We'll also be going over some of the latest news. I'm Bill Long. Joining me today is Neil Williams and Mark Griffiths. How are you both, lads?
Well, I'm not
I'm
bad.
good. Go on, Mark.
I'm channeling the spirit of Norwegian football commentator Bjorga Lillian after they beat England. And was it 1981? Nigel Hawthorne, Lady Godiva, Mo Molan, can you hear me? Jimmy Hill, your boys took one hell of a beating. There, I've said it.
Are they holding a cat at the same time?
While holding Laszlo the cat, Wrexham's top feline fan. Good lads.
Yeah, we've seen a game on Saturday.
Well, yeah, let's get right into it. So, I mean, if we think sort of chronologically, I suppose it was some game. You're right, Neil. But how do we even break that apart without going step by step? I suppose pre-game the teams were announced and a couple of surprises, weren't there, Neil?
Yeah, very surprised. You know, Hayden obviously had a bit of a niggle and a knock, so big game. So rest him for the league when we need him most. Yeah, surprised Palmer was dropped as well, but maybe resting him for the league. I'm not too sure, but it was great to give Dolby a chance. Yeah, it was a few and Hall Johnson on the wing as well. So instead of Ford. When we saw the team sheets, yeah, we were really surprised by them. But the lads did the job. They played well. So nothing too much to worry about, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, let it daylight in on magic, but what happened was I got a lift from all-round club legends, Geraint Parry, and he takes a call just after we've left Wrexham, and he's talking about something and saying, yeah, well, Aaron won't need that because he won't be playing. And I was sitting there thinking in the passenger seat, thinking, Aaron Hayden? Aaron what? And when he hung up, I was so horrified. Asked him, are you saying, is Aaron Hayden not fit? And yeah, so tight hamstring. And I was horrified. But I must say, it's ironic because, I was quite fixated about what Coventry would do, what their lineup would be like, how strong would they go? And then you look at their side, I've made a straight beeline for that when the team sheets came out and thinking, oh, okay, that's pretty strong. But then I saw ours and I thought, hang on, we're rotating as much as they are. I was a little taken aback by that, I've got to be honest.
I think coming from being in the stands, well, under the stand, when that news sort of broke out, everybody was panicking that it was a serious injury to Aaron Hayden or that he was off and he was being sold, and people were like, no, we're not risking him because he's going. And I think the club are sort of damned if they do, damned if they don't. Everybody wants us to rotate, but the second a rotation happens, people start to panic a bit, don't they, Neil?
Yeah, untoward, really. I mean, I think we're all worried, we may lose a few of our good players, but because we're in the situation we are now, I don't think there's any doubt that any of the players will want to leave until they've achieved what they were brought into the club to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they're there for the long term. They love the place, they love the fans. The 4,500 fans that turned up on Saturday. Through all the traffic jams, the accidents on the roads, and got held up everywhere. I think they were a credit to the club, and the players were a credit to the club. And from what Mark Robbins has said about the fans at Wrexham being the loudest there's ever been at the Rico Arena, I just think it was amazing. Even the build up to the game was fantastic before we even had the team sheets out.
Yeah, so go on, Mark. Sorry,
it's quite weird. Being we were some of the first ones into the press box, weren't we, Neil? And there's like a succession of people turning up and being asked, "How was your journey?" And everyone's saying, "Terrible, terrible." And it was a common experience, I think, getting down there. It made up for, of course, once the game started. And, of course, the most important pre-match thing of all was that when I got my email on Saturday morning from their media team the media pack, and it said there would be pies and chips
in the cafe.
in the media lounge. Oh, I was a happy man. And they delivered a very nice chicken balti pie. And they left the skins on the chips. So I think that's the most important thing we can take away from our FA Cup match, really. I got fed for free.
I thought the club were very helpful, very accommodating. All the stewards were very good, and people within the ground were very, very friendly and very good. And they looked after the Wrexham media team and the fans very, very well. And all the comments you see from the Wrexham fans, they all seem to have had a really good day there.
Yeah, it was. You know what? The service under the concourse as well. Probably one of the smoothest I've been to at a football match. The queues were very quick, and there was a lot of people who were very thirsty, queuing up for stuff, and they got served very quickly. So fair play, good club. And
as we'll get on to in a moment, a few of their defenders were quite obliging as well, weren't they?
Well, yeah. We'll move on to that then. I mean, it was weird, right? Pre-match, everybody I spoke to, a lot of people were really confident, and I thought it was misplaced. I actually said a few times on the bus, and I got a bit of a ribbon for it. That I thought we were going to get battered. Not necessarily because I don't have faith in the team, but just they're 3 leagues above us. It's a competition they probably wanted to do well in, and I had a feeling that maybe we would rotate as well. And especially when that team sheet came out, I thought, you've got Reece Johnson, who's not played much for a long time, Cleworth coming in for Hayden, and that's two changes like that in defence is always a bit of a worry. But wow, some performance that was, wasn't it, Neil?
Oh, amazing performance. I think I said to Mark, before the game, before we started commentating, in reality, it was a free hit for the team, really. The pressure was off them. There was no pressure, we've got to keep the, winning because we've got to keep up with Notts County. It was just a free hit. And I think that showed in our play definitely in the first half. We were so free and so attacking. Cleworth, stepped up and did a fantastic job, coming in for Hayden. And I thought everybody that came into the team did a sterling job, and at the end of the day, we didn't really have anything to worry about.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Cleworth because, he's barely played the last 8 weeks or so, has he? And our Coventry position was right above the edge of the area on the right-hand side from Wrexham defence's point of view. So we had a good close look at Cleworth. And first 10 minutes, he looked a little bit rusty. And he just thought, oh dear, I hope we haven't thrown him into this out of necessity. And he's not quite sharp enough for it yet. But after that, I thought he was utterly outstanding. I thought the way he handled things was brilliant. When he started charging forwards, he wasn't played in often by Reece Johnson, but Hall Johnson used his runs as decoys to create space inside him to find other players, set up a shot for O'Connor in exactly those circumstances, and Cleworth was brilliant. I thought absolutely magnificent.
Well, yeah, he earned the penalty as well, didn't he? It was him. His shot would have gone in, when the guy handballed it, and we were given the penalty for our 4th goal, and then the player sent off. So I think he had a fantastic game, and I've no doubt, Parky will be using him again in the near future because I thought he had a great game.
Well, Bill and I work with some of his someone who is a family friend of Cleworth, and she was saying how heartbroken she was because they were watching the game on TV and they were very proud of how he played, but they thought he'd scored with the penalty.
Yeah,
and it's like, wow, imagine if that had happened. Like you say, if Panzo hadn't stuck his hands out, yeah. But we've jumped ahead in the chronology a bit. We have to score
sorry, guys.
we score 3 before then, don't we? It's
I know, but
stars, wasn't it?
I was just saying about the players that stepped in, stepped up to the game. We'd been out for a while, and I just thought he was worth a real good mention, Cleworth, because he did have such a good game.
Absolutely. The tempo, Bill, from the very start was breathless, wasn't it? We were just at them. You could see from the beginning what our intention was. We were going to go at them.
Yeah, and I think we took them by surprise, really, because I think it took the fans in the stadium by surprise as well. Look, if you want a very detailed breakdown, go and listen to the fantastic Final Whistle podcast that was released yesterday on the official Wrexham AFC streams.
Love you, Bell.
But in terms of like, like you come to us for the pub chat, don't you, with Dragonheart, and the atmosphere was just, I feel like the fans just bought into what the players were doing on the pitch. There was no nervousness, not at the start, obviously a bit later on, we'll get on to that a bit later, but as the scoreline got a bit closer, there was a bit of nervousness. But I felt at 0-0, and I don't know how it came off to you in the press box. Never mind the fans, the club out, the players having no pressure. The fans felt like they had no pressure, and everyone was really having a good time. And it's one of the loudest Wrexham crowds I think I've ever been in, Mark.
Oh, the atmosphere was magnificent, really was. And we'll get to later that the Coventry fans I thought were magnificent as well.
Yeah.
But, oh my word, yeah. I mean, the Wrexham fans just made such an unholy racket. It was fabulous to see. We had to make some decisions on the highlights about what audio to use and whether to use our radio commentary over the top. That's not ideal, because it's not a video commentary. But we did do in the end, because the deciding factor was, can we hear the fans really well coming off it? And the answer was a resounding yes. Even with the headphones on, you could just hear everything the crowd was singing. It was a marvelous, marvelous atmosphere, and it must make you feel 10 feet tall when you're attacking that Wrexham end. I mean, the photographs are phenomenal that have come out of the media team. Really amazing, fabulous record of it all. But the Wrexham players celebrating with this huge bank of fans behind them. It was absolutely magnificent, wasn't it? And it was exciting in the press box, Neil, as well, wasn't it? There was that crackle, that sense of, we're going to be, we're in a game here. This is not going to be us, sort of rolling over and getting beaten by a stronger side. We're in this.
Oh yeah, we're definitely in the game from the word go. To be honest, I thought we dominated the first half. When we scored that wonderful first goal for Derby with his header. Great work by, again, Reece Hall-Johnson, and then on to Luke Young, and a pinpoint cross, and in between two defenders, Derby got his head to it and in the corner net. And we didn't expect it, but I thought we were so good in going forward and so quick. As I said, I think we caught Coventry on the back foot. They didn't expect what we had on the pitch and our attacking prowess. And when that first goal went in, you could look at them and think, well, what's going on here? And I thought, great first goal, and and that wound the fans up as well even more. We got going even more, which lifted the players even further, and it was just a great start to the game for Wrexham. And the tempo was magnificent.
And of course, I'm long enough in the tooth to have seen so many Wrexham games against good quality opposition to feel, well, it often comes down to the quality in the penalty areas. I've often seen quite sort of nondescript Wrexham sides outplay a stronger team in midfield. But the problem is we don't take our chances when we create them, and then the other side are good at creating chances and taking them when they make theirs. And a number of times I've seen us lose a game to a top or second division team when we've made twice as many chances as them, but they're able to capitalise. And yet on this occasion, of course, we were also the team that took their chances because, okay, I accept Coventry did make plenty of chances themselves, but wow, I mean, we were making them and finishing them. Like I said, that header by Dalby, that was just a lovely move, wasn't it? O'Connor's switch was excellent. And if you go a little bit further on, a little further back, O'Connor is put under a lot of pressure and just is really calm in possession to keep the ball moving backwards so that we don't lose it. And then when he gets it back, pings that big diagonal. Hall-Johnson, lovely first time little pop inside. And because he's played it early and the fullback's close to him, that gives Young just that time to take a touch and measure it, put in that perfect cross for a perfect header. I'm really glad for Dalby as well, because as we've been saying in previous episodes, Dragonheart, we'd probably look for a fourth striker. 3 strikers isn't that much to get you through the season. So, whether he's going to be third or fourth choice, is maybe up in the air. Well, he was given a real vote of confidence to start that game, And he really, well, took hold of that advantage and ran with it. Because, so Bill, as you said, you were very impressed with his performance, weren't you?
Oh, really impressed. I think what's going to be sort of not understated really with his performance in general is that this is a guy who hasn't really played much this season, who is being brought into a team that, you know, let's be honest, like, okay, he's playing in training, but if he's playing in training when they do 11v11 games, he's going to be on the opposition side, isn't he? You know, he's not going to be playing with all those players week in, week out, or day in, day out, I should say. But you would not have known he was our third choice striker, would you, Neil?
No, he put in a good shift. You know, he ran for everything. He ran after everything, and yeah, I was so pleased that he got that goal. He was given the opportunity to start for a game. I don't know whether that was that the first game. Well, no, I think he started in the FA Trophy, didn't he? But one of his first 4 games he started for Wrexham, and I thought he, you know, raised his game and did really well because he hasn't played for the first team in the league at all. I don't think from a starting position.
Has he made himself undroppable after that? Because I know Palmer's played really well, but it gives Phil Parkinson a bit of a headache, doesn't it?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, we'll see whether it is rotation or not when we see the team sheets for subsequent games. But it's his 5th start for us. But total minutes played this season, 317 as a starter, 164 as a substitute. If you compare that to, well, the likes of Palmer and Mullins played over 2,400 minutes. So it shows that he's not had that much time on the pitch. But fair play, he took advantage of it, didn't he? And not only a goal, but also an assist. I mean, it was an excellent all-round performance by him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Parky use him a bit more. I don't know. I thought in the game at Solihull, I thought Palmer looked a bit, you know, off his game, to be honest, and wasn't as aggressive he normally is, and he's playing. So, you know, maybe it's something for Parky to have a think about after that, you know, performance that Derby put in against Coventry on Saturday.
I think it's a funny one, isn't it? Because Ollie Palmer's been so good at home, so good at home, and I think, you know, Solihull on Boxing Day, he was absolutely fantastic, wasn't he? You know, he potentially had a claim to be man of the match that game. Well, most of the squad had a claim to be man of the match that game, but he was up there. And then doesn't perform quite as well at Solihull away. Loses his place, probably, if we were honest, because a bit of rotation. Now, actually, there's a question mark. And any other team in this league, there wouldn't be a question mark over someone of his quality, would there?
I still feel he's first choice. But
of course, yeah.
Dolby's made a strong case, hasn't he? Which was, I mean, really great to see. Really good to see. And I loved the way that in the end, well, I say loved the way, at the end, Dolby was absolutely out on his feet. He was shattered, but he kept just going. And I think as well, Parkinson, you know, could have brought on Bickerstart for him, but left him on because his height is useful from set pieces when we're defending, isn't it? So he asked him to go the extra mile and beyond, and Dolby dug deep and did exactly that. So all credit to him. He's the Steve Buxton of the 21st century, Neil.
Steve Buxton. A bit taller than Steve Buxton, though, eh?
True. Yeah, fair comment. Sorry.
Slightly.
He's a postman in Boris. Actually, he is.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Steve Buxton. You're gonna give a potted history of Steve Buxton, Neil?
You can give him a quick. Well, he was a little terrier, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was on your heels all the time.
He was very he was a little striker, wasn't he? Quick and incredibly feisty. And maybe one of those players who, well, he suffered maybe from a couple of things. One was coming through our youth system when we had the best team we ever had, which meant he was trying to fight against established players like Dixie McNeil and Graham Whittle and, you know, John Lyons for a place in the team and Mick Vinter. But he did get into the team. And the other thing he had to fight against was that he was so good coming off the bench because he tended to put 90 minutes of energy into a 25-minute performance that I think he was slightly sort of pigeonholed as a specialist off the bench. But he was very good, wasn't he? Coming off and coming on and hassling defenders. He got sent off a few times because sometimes he'd push it a bit too far, but he was a great sort of feisty, scrappy striker. I can even forgive him the perm he had briefly in the early 80s.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best perm, I would argue. Not that I'm in a position to complain about hair or indeed about anything else. My watch has just warned me that I should move because I'm in a noisy environment which just went over 90 decibels. Well, that'd be me then, wouldn't it? There's nothing else going on around here. The speakers are quite low. So maybe I should calm myself down a bit here, you know?
Well, something that definitely went over 90 decibels was the crowd after both the first and the second goal went in. And I tell you what, I actually listened to, it was one of those games, isn't it, where afterwards I was just trying to absorb as much coverage as possible. And I've listened back to not the whole highlights, but the goals, your reactions to your two's reactions to the goals. Neil, your scream as that second goal went in almost blew my phone up because I was listening to it on my phone. So
I was saying to Mark before the game, I don't know how I'm going to contain myself, if we score, because we're in an away media area. But I thought there was plenty of Wrexham media around us. I thought, why not, let it go. And when our second goal went in from, oh gosh, can't even think of his name now.
Lee,
yeah. Whether it was a cross, whether it was an attempt on goal, but we didn't care at the time. It just flew in that bottom corner. I think the keeper saw it late because he thought there was a striker going to come in and try and head it in, and he stayed on his line. And it just flew in the bottom corner, and we were just in dreamland at 2-0 up. We couldn't believe it. And, I said to Mark, if we can take this lead in at half time, we've got this game.
And how right you were.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go on, sorry, Mark.
Well, firstly, Neil, did you notice what Bill said there? He said he was desperate to absorb every little thing about the game, so he resorted to listening to us. Hope you picked that up. I did. That's filed, that is. But also, I just my recollection of that is like he's out on the wing, and I'm sort of looking in the middle, thinking, what's he going to? Can he pass it to someone? Is there someone he can hit in the box? And when he whips it in like that, I'm thinking, oh, not sure there is anyone really there to attack that ball in. And the next thing, just the whole place has exploded. And I said, my headphones are exploding of Neil going nuts. And I'm just going, oh my God. I just can't believe it. And at first, my assumption is Elliot Lee has done, some sort of amazing world-class trick. I think it was a cross, almost certain. I'm certain it was a cross. But having said that, who cares? Because the fact is that he strikes the ball so cleanly, doesn't he? So if he's going to put a bit of zip on it when he puts the ball into the area, you're going to have to be on your toes no matter what. And the truth is, I think I said it in the commentary, or did I say it in the podcast? The story about the old famous 1930s golfer Ben Hogan, who was supposed to be the best in the world, and he kept chipping the ball to get on the green, and it would roll into the hole. And a jealous opponent once said, I can't believe how lucky you are. And Hogan said, yeah, it's funny that the more I practice, the luckier I get. And the truth of the matter is, Lee keeps putting the right balls into the right areas all the time. His technique is beautiful. He strikes the ball beautifully. Something like that's going to happen. And he's made his own luck, hasn't he, I think? But at what a moment. There's such an explosive moment. Like, what's two now? All right, then. This is going well.
Well, it's mad that it was a bit like that in the crowd. So I was row B or row C, I can't remember now. And just from the way we were viewing just left of the goal. So my view of the actual goal itself was I didn't really know what had happened other than seeing the ball going into the net. Yeah. I couldn't tell, whether it had taken a deflection or whatever, but it was just like, it was unreal that the place absolutely erupted. And after it calmed down, people were just laughing. I don't think anybody could quite believe what was going on. It's crazy. Yeah.
To be fair to Mullin, he wasn't that far off getting his head to that ball, but and he was actually celebrating before the ball hit the back of the net, so he knew it was going in.
Yeah, he'd have definitely gotten to that ball if it had been to him, but it didn't matter, did it? So, fair play to Elliot Lee. What a superstar.
And then we're in dreamland.
We were. I mean, it was definitely one of those games that was just. Sometimes a match can almost be like an out of body experience, can't it? When you think back to it, it's almost like, was I actually there? Did that really actually happen? And that, yeah. And that was one of those games that just time seemed to stand still a few times. And when that goal went in, I can't even say anything that would do justice to the feeling, really.
Time did definitely stand still when the 7 minutes went up.
Oh, well, yeah, we'll get onto that. But
first half,
they did pip us back with a goal, but we don't really need to talk about that too much. To be, like I said, go to the Final Whistle podcast if you want a technical breakdown.
I would say though, throughout, even we looked a better team, but you could see they had that championship quality that when they did get the ball in the final thirds, you felt threatened. They looked like they had goals in them, even though we were defending well and we had more of the ball and had more threats, if you will, more possession in their half. And it could, if we hadn't won it, the turning point of the game, I think, would have been that injury to Tavares, the young striker. It was a horrible injury as well. He's ruptured his Achilles, isn't he? He's out for 9 months at least, it seems. Total freak injury. But that meant they brought on Victor Gyökeres, one of the best strikers in the championship, and you could see his quality. That made a difference, didn't it? He was a class act.
Yeah, and before they scored, they did hit the post as well, didn't they? To be fair
Palmer's,
to them,
and Palmer was good. Their Palmer, Casey Palmer, wasn't he? Kept dropping between the lines and clever little early passes around the corner to find strikers. He was really threatening, and you could see they had something going forwards. It was just that we kept scoring, which was, it's quite handy to do that in a footy match, isn't it?
It definitely is.
We'd have been happy going in 2-1 at half time, but then they added the 7 added minutes in the first half. And then we know what happens next, guys.
Well, first I was moaning about adding 7 minutes on, but the half ends with our co-commentator Paul Jones chastising me and saying never complain about 7 minutes being added on again, because of course we scored in the 7th minute of added time, didn't we?
Yeah, and that was quite funny because my mate Ian, who comes with me to all the games, was like, "Oh, we could do with another goal, couldn't we?" Just before Tozer threw it, and then like to score off the back of that, and it's that third goal was a weird one because that we went in with so much confidence, but it was just that I know I keep saying it, that really was is this happening moment. Like, you could go 3-1 up against a championship side. It's within the first half, it's unreal, absolutely unreal. I mean, I genuinely, I'm almost lost for words, and it's not often that happens, but it's difficult to really quantify how that felt and what it meant to everybody that was in the ground, really. Well, all the Wrexham fans were in the ground.
I think it shows how far this team's come this season, to be honest, how confident they were in the first half of that game, and when Tozer took that throw in, and we know what he's like with his throw-ins, and I'm sure they must have watched his throw-ins quite a lot, Coventry, before the game, but it was a bit like head tennis in the box there, 3 headers, and it was in the back of the net. So for Tom O'Connor, he was in the right place, and he twisted his head to angle it away from the keeper, and it was 3-1 half time, and then we were in dreamland.
And I think it also shows the value of Tozer's throw-ins. And the match of the day, we were the first game on match of the day. They were talking about not being able to deal with his throws. And I think the thing is that I think a lot of people have the image that a long throw is dangerous because somebody will get in the end of it. And with Hayden and Palmer, you do have players who can actually win and put a good header on goal straight from a long throw. But I think more importantly, it forces the other side back deep in their 6-yard box and gives you lots to work off, second balls. And what we did really well on Saturday, and effectively, was we kept winning those second balls. The throw-ins were into a crowd. It was difficult to get any leverage on a clearing header. And so, like you see in that goal, the defender gets his head to it, but he can only pop it up towards the edge of the box. Luke Young is there hoovering it up. And when he puts it back in, It allows Dolby to set up O'Connor. It's a lovely, nice head tennis goal, wasn't it? But all three of them played their parts, and we won a lot of balls around the edge of there. Cleworth's penalty that we'll come to came from exactly the same thing. We had another chance when Young had the shot blocked before that goal, where the defender, to be fair, Young, he's hit it like a rocket from about 7 yards out, but it was never going to be a goal because the defender got out so quickly that he blocked it. But if the defender hadn't got out so quickly, Young would have scored then. So those throws cause massive problems simply because it's hard to get them clear. And there was another chance we had in the first half, and I'm struggling to remember what happened at the end of it, but it was a long throw that was cleared properly, but McFadden got onto it, and he banged a cracking cross ball to Tozer, because Tozer knows to either follow the throws in and join in the attack, or more often stays out there. And if the ball comes out, we know Tozer's there, and he's 2-footed, and he's a good crosser of the ball, and he'll drive past a defender with pace and strength as well. So he's a useful player on the wing. And McFadden just knew he would still be there and didn't really have to look. He just drilled it straight at him and opened Coventry up. So those long throw-ins are a really good weapon, the way we exploit it in more ways than just trying to hurl them onto Hayden's head. And that goal, I think, illustrated it nicely.
Yeah, I think it'd be fair to say that Bento is probably our most underrated player in a lot of ways, isn't he? And in the sense that he very rarely gets the plaudits that some of the other stars in the squad get. But our game completely changes without him, especially with that set piece delivery as well. So, fair play to him. And then we go into the break then 3-1 up. And speaking of breaks, we're going to take a quick one, and we'll be back in a second.
I'm Luke Young, and this is Dragonheart.
So, second half, Neil, we're due to come out. How are you feeling at halftime? I know you guys do the halftime show, but how are you feeling about the way the game's gone?
We can believe it, to be honest. I thought we dominated the first half. Yesterday had a few chances that they looked very good going forward, but they didn't have that final finishing touch to score goals yet. We did, 3-1. More than happy half time, and you could see that the Coventry fans were getting a little bit disgruntled with their players going backwards and being so negative. And we couldn't have asked for anything more from the team. Nobody thought we'd be 3-1 at half time, and I think we were on cloud nine.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up fans in the stands reaction as well, and the atmosphere in the concourse was absolutely unreal. Everybody was bouncing. It was fantastic. I mean, when we played Stoke a couple of years ago, the atmosphere was like that. And I think there is an element of when you're playing a bigger club, and that, like you said, we've said previously about the lack of pressure and all that sort of stuff. Everyone is up for it, but to be 3-1 up and people be up for it on top of that anyway, that's like, it was just so special, And I think as well, what we've got to sort of say really is that we're really, really benefiting from the fact that so many people are coming to the racecourse now. I know it's almost unfair that a lot of people can't get tickets to these games because of the season ticket holder priority and then the memberships. And well, it's not unfair. This was just the way it is. But there are a lot of people who miss out. But in previous years, we'd have had like a hardcore of about 1,000, 2,000 that had season tickets, a floating group of fans that came to most games to make that up to 3,000 or 4,000. And then I've always said with Wrexham, people who say that they're all these people are bandwagons, they're not. We've always had about 10,000 fans that would come to 2 or 3 games a year. They just wouldn't be their priority. But now we're playing really well. They're making it their priority. That's just how it is. But we've got 6,000 odd season ticket holders. The vast majority of that 4,500 would have been season ticket holders. They all know the songs. They all know who the players are. They know all the chants. There is barely a soul in that away end that doesn't know who's playing. And I think it really added to the atmosphere, didn't it?
I think you took the word out of my mouth saying about the songs, because that whole away end is all making noise. Each person in it is making a lot of noise. I mean, if you look back, I'm not trying to be critical of this, but just observing the change in nature of it. When we got to the FA Trophy final against Grimsby, it did have a bit of an air of a family day out, perhaps. Speaking as someone who's in the press box and wasn't in the crowd, it just felt a little bit like that. It was nice. It was lovely. It was a fantastic thing. But Coventry was 4,500 people who've been watching Wrexham week in, week out, are really committed to the team and were singing their lungs out for them.
Yeah, and to actually watch them from a distance, because we were quite away from the the Wrexham fans in the press box. To see that sea of red and white was just phenomenal. The bouncing, the singing. I mean, you outsang the Coventry fans easily. It was so lovely to hear, and I just wish I'd been part of that, because I enjoy the atmosphere and the singing part of the game. So they were a credit to the club, the fans were. I mean, I'm sure the players have said as well, that lifts their spirits, it lifts them, and as Mark said, you must feel 10 foot high when you come out on the pitch with that amount of fans singing for your club behind the goal. It must be an amazing feeling.
To be fair, Neil, though you got plenty of singing done during the broadcast. To be fair, I like the way you quite, as you said, you did say to me beforehand, I don't know how I'm going to contain myself in the press box. I'm glad you admitted earlier that you just decided I won't contain myself.
I thought it was quite safe.
Quite right. It was the video of the commentary, and by the way, I'm editing the video of us to put up. It's quite fun how the post-match one is just a picture of you from the torso down, because you're standing up, clapping and singing. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's for me the best things about all of this is that people like you who are so committed to the club are getting to see some really great stuff.
Yeah, I felt a bit safer, because when we scored, there was a lot of fans around us in the boxes behind it. We're all Wrexham fans who are in the boxes above us and behind us, because one of your kids from school was in one of the boxes, wasn't he, Mark? So there were Wrexham fans all around us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one gentleman who took exception to us at the final, wasn't there?
He did, yes.
Walking past, making a gesture.
He gave us a 2-finger salute.
I assume he was just hoping there were 2 legs.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, and
then it got better.
Yeah, it did. Yes, not that long after the start of the first half. It was about the 50-something minute. I mean, like I say, time just completely slowed down and stood to a still for me. So I can't remember what minute we scored, but like we were saying earlier, Cleworth scores that if their defender doesn't take a bit of a dive, and I'm not 100% convinced he's dove to save it. That Newcastle player's name, Stephen Taylor, was it?
Yeah.
And then he pretended to he was shot like a sniper afterwards, wasn't he? Even though he had actually handball. I don't think it was a situation like that, but it does go in. And Cleworth's been a bit unlucky since he's broken into the first team with goals. There's a few chances he's missed, and I know he scored a screamer in the FA Trophy, but other than that, he's been a bit unlucky, isn't he? And is it a red card though? I'm not complaining. I'm not 100% convinced it was a red card.
It changed the whole game
in their favour.
Yeah, that red card changed the game for their favour. We know the history. Mullin took a great penalty when we guaranteed he's going to score from the penalty spot, and 4-1, a dreamland again. And we're thinking that's when a huge amount of Coventry fans started leaving the stadium. They all got up and started walking out. But yeah, they're sending off, changed the game for them, going down to 10 men. What changed, I don't know, but they just dominated the last, basically 25 minutes of the game.
And you've got to give them credit for that, haven't you? And I think you sort of alluded to it earlier, Mark, but the Coventry fan base as well, in fairness to them. I've been in plenty of crowds, both as a neutral and as a Wrexham fan, where that kind of thing's happened and the atmosphere turns very sour, doesn't it? Nasty, and really, especially when a team's a couple leagues below you, just to go a goal down when the team's 3 leagues below you can sometimes sour the atmosphere. But they didn't let it get on their backs, and I think that really helped their team kind of galvanise, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to disagree with you, Neil. You're quite right. A good number left then, and I understand why. But those who stayed were absolutely outstanding, I thought. The way they got behind their team. The atmosphere was amazing. And like you said, Billy, quite right. I mean, I'm going to offend people here, but, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. Sorry, Callum. Please, anyone offended by this, blame me, not Callum FM. I just thought, I've spent plenty of time at Goodison Park, and Everton fans, doesn't take much to spark them. Imagine if they were 4-1 down with 10 men and half an hour left against a team from 3 leagues below. Oh my word, they'd tear the place down. But the Coventry fans were astounding the way they stuck with them and roared them on. And there's no question that their fans, played a part in driving their team forwards, as far as I'm concerned. I think as well you asked, is it a red card? I was adamant at the time that it wasn't. I still feel maybe not. It's definitely a penalty because he's jumped arms out. That whole thing now, isn't it? Unnatural silhouette. So, it's definitely a penalty. But, to make it a red card for denying a goal-scoring opportunity, do we need an element of intent? Because I agree, I don't think it was intent, except insofar as by making himself as big as possible, he's hoping to block it somehow. But it's not the same as the Cardiff one on Sunday, where the young fullback makes a brilliant tumbling tip around the post. I felt a little sorry for him. But then you got to remember the context was I knew we were about to go, or likely to go 4-1 up against 10 men. And I thought, the sie's over now. And how wrong I was, because like Neil said, they came at us properly, didn't they? Wow.
They did. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Mark. I mean, half time they came off to booze. The fans were actually booed Coventry off, and I don't think the Coventry fans got going until they scored their second goal, because they were so subdued after Wrexham scored the fourth. That's when, quite a number of fans got up and walked out the ground. They'd seen enough, getting beat by a team, 3 leagues below them. And when they scored that second goal, it gave them some hope. And that's when I think they started getting behind their fans and had a bit of a belief, especially when the third one went in. And they thought they're right back in again, which rightly they were. And we had to defend, tooth and nail to keep it a 4-3.
A nice comparison for you. When we beat Dover, when Dover go 5-2 up, it's around the same point in the game. And I think, the Wrexham fans were a bit stunned at that point. But when Palmer got the one back to give us a bit of hope, that was when I think the crowd was spurred on, especially because Palmer then picks the ball up and he's running back to the halfway line, stirring everyone up. But, just like the Coventry fans, it was getting that goal back and thinking there might be a bit of hope here, reducing it to 2 goals that really got everyone going, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. They did get more vocal. And you could feel the nervousness coming from the Wrexham fans because they went a little bit quieter. So, but 4-2, we still thought we were comfortable. And then they pulled the third one back, and it was squeaky bum time, especially those last 10 minutes when the added 7 minutes went up again. I mean, they had so many chances, number of chances again, hit the bar, they hit the post. Howard made a couple of great saves to stop the ball getting to their striker. And, we threw everything out to keep it a 4-3 to win the game. And I thought, fair play, the lads were out on their feet, but they battled so hard to, for the fans and for themselves to keep that win, to keep that victory. And they did a great job.
Couldn't have said it better, Neil. Yeah, and all credit to, was it Palmer who took their free kick, because that was a hell of a free kick, and I think anybody who thinks Howard's going to save that it's a difficult one to save. I can understand why people are a little bit upset, but like I said to you earlier, Mark, off camera, if he dives for that and still doesn't save it, people will go, it's unsavable. But because he doesn't dive, everyone's like, Howard should have gone for it. It's like,
Yeah,
isn't kind of a nice height, but the whip on it was just it was a fantastic delivery.
I
First
just
of all,
felt.
we didn't think it was a free kick, did we, Mark? First off, when we saw it, we didn't
But it
think it was a
was.
free kick for Coventry.
Yeah, but
Was it?
it was when we saw the replay, we realised just how biased we are.
Okay. And secondly, I think our wall should have jumped a little bit, and they would have, would have skimmed off the top of the head of somebody and maybe gone over the bar. But there we go. We can't complain.
No.
I mean, I've a lot of sympathy for Howard. I mean, at the time, the way it went past him, I said in the commentary, I wasn't sure if I might have taken a little deflection because he looks flat-footed. But when you look at it again, you realise there's no deflection. But to be fair, he's not flat-footed. I mean, that's such a difficult place to defend a free kick from. It's right on the D, pretty much in the middle. So he's got to make a decision about which side's the wall side, which side's his side anyway. Goalkeepers, for me, speaking as a failed goalkeeper, when you blame a goalkeeper for a free kick going in, should be when they make a wall and then they don't trust it and they gamble and go behind it anyway. That's when it's a mistake. And the fact is that Howard did the right thing in trusting his wall to block it. And as you said, Bill, bottom line, when a player strikes a free kick like that, so it's skimming over the wall and it's skimming away from Howard, even though it wasn't in the corner, it would take something outstanding. Because remember, the whole problem with walls, you can't see the ball till it's come over the top of it, and it's coming over it at pace like that. Well, good luck. It's a bit like that chance Mullen had at 4-1, where he absolutely nailed it. And I think it more hits the keeper than anything else. It came through a crowd, and he just happened to be in the right spot. If that had gone a foot either side of him, he wouldn't have moved. And that's something maybe we might forget about as well. When it was 4-1, right, okay, now we see our narrative as, but Coventry come back. But for about 5 or 6 minutes, it played out like you would expect. We were against 10 men, and we did make more chances. Mullen was against the last defender twice. Once, brilliant tackle, and then the other time, well, he was body checked, and the ref wasn't giving him anything, so he didn't get the decision. He had that shot as well, which the keeper parried from about 10 yards out. We were rampant for a bit after that fourth goal, but then they managed to make intelligent substitutions and turn it around and just put the pressure on us with the crowd behind them, didn't they? And I think we panicked a little. Well, I'm reluctant to say that, but
we did.
We're a good team, and we got a lot of experienced players. But the nature of the onslaught, and I think it's not too much to say it was an onslaught, meant there was a little bit of panic. There were a couple of times when defenders just hoofed it anywhere when they had time to take in a league game that had taken a touch and looked to players out. There was the corner at the end, which Howard looked to punch and mispunched when he could have caught it. Just because the occasion and the situation, I think, was getting into people's heads a bit, I think. But, they're human. They're allowed to do that. And they did a lot of superhuman things. So on Saturday, so we can forgive them that, can't we?
Yeah, I think we said in commentary, perhaps we should have kept the player upfield on their set pieces, just to keep a couple of their players out, but to make it a bit more room in the box there. But, it was what it was. And I think, as you say, Mark, we did panic a little bit, but that's just human nature, when your back's against the wall and you're playing against a superior quality footballing team. They did all they could to keep the ball out of the net, and they did that job.
I've got
to be honest. Maybe their poor finishing that they didn't equalise and take to a replay, but and some good saves by Howard and our defenders blocking the ball when they needed to.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's how the game planned out.
And some tackles by Luke Young. Luke Young didn't just win a lot of tackles and didn't just win a lot of excellent tackles, but he won a lot of very important tackles. 50-50 is where if he doesn't make it, we're in trouble. And I thought that was, it was a real captain's innings by Young, wasn't it? Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, last year especially, the midfield was sort of highlighted as maybe the weak area of if you were going to pick a weak area of the pitch. But it was the midfield, I think, that won us the game, really. Elliot Lee scores the second goal. Tom O'Connor sets up the third, was involved in the first, so was Young as well. And some of those crunching tackles Young went into towards the end to help galvanise the squad and the fans was, people at times have said Luke Young is maybe, how can I put this diplomatically? I must stress this isn't what I believe, but especially last year, a lot of people would say that Young would be the one to make way for O'Connor or another player, but he's proven himself undroppable, isn't he?
I think so. I think he's best player on the pitch on Saturday, and that's saying something because there were a lot of excellent performances, some on Coventry side as well. I just think he's magnificent captain, brilliant player, so wholehearted.
Week in, week out, he does the same job. The amount of trekking up and down the pitch he does, from being in the opposition box to get back to defending your own box. He is just such a fantastic player. I think a lot of the fans don't see that in him, and I think he's such an underrated player. And what I actually found difficult, even after the win, there was some fans who were even critical about our performance, about performance of individual players. And I think, well, how can you be critical after we've just beat a championship team 4-3 on their own ground, and then you still criticise some of our players? I think,
yeah, and it wasn't. I didn't see this game. I only saw Match of the Day, but it looked to me, and I'm sorry for bringing this up, Bill, but with Stevenage and Aston Villa, it looked more like a game that Aston Villa were much better than them, but just didn't finish the job off properly, and then Stevenage, got maybe a bit of a rub of the green near the end, whereas we bossed it for 45 minutes, and then the first 15 of the second half, they had more of the ball, but we were holding them at arm's length easily. They weren't creating anything. We were fine. And it's only the last 20 minutes odd plus added time that, we caved in a little. But for a good 60, 70 minutes, we were in control of that game brilliantly against a side that, like I said, had been rotated, but I brought good players in. I thought it was fantastic. For what it's worth... For what it's worth, Neil, actually, I think we were right to keep everyone back when we're defending corners in that situation. I appreciate the idea of leaving players at the pitch.
We had no outlet, Mark. When we picked the ball up again, we were just hoofing it and we was going straight back to Coventry. If we had a player forward who was there to battle for that ball coming out, I think maybe we'd give them a bit more to think about rather than the ball coming straight back in again and having to defend it again. That would be only my only criticism, that we didn't have a player up there, and that's the reason why I'd say that.
But I would argue that the primary concern in that situation is don't concede from the set piece, and you'd be working on what everybody's positions are. You don't want to disrupt that. Keep that shape. Stick to the plan. Just make sure you don't concede. If you just hoof it out for the throw-in, fine. Then you can push up the pitch a bit, readjust your shape again. I don't mean that, playing in National League, halfway through a match, I would say, let's have somebody up the pitch, or gamble and have two maybe. But I think in that circumstance, if we say, right, okay, the lad who's marking the far post, we won't put him in there. We'll put him on the halfway line, and then the ball comes into that area and they score, then it's our fault that we've let a goal in. So I personally, in those circumstances, I say, just defend it, hoof it. There's not long left. Hoof it for touch more than down the middle, because it'll come straight back at you. But even hoofing it away gives you a chance to get your defensive line out. And later in the game, I'm saying do it. Earlier in the game, I'm saying don't. But that's my reading of it.
What are your thoughts, Bill?
I think if we had this mythical, pacey fourth choice striker that we were talking about, I'd be tempted to have somebody up there. But I think with the personnel that we do have, you need Palmer and Dalby batting away the crosses, and then maybe who would you put there? James Jones maybe at that point in the game, or I don't know.
I agree.
I'm on the. I'm not. This doesn't help the democracy of the Dragonheart vote that's going on here and what we should have done, but I am firmly on the fence with that. I can see the argument from both sides, really.
But I felt that as well. If you got Mullin or Lee, you might say, get up there. I think I wouldn't still in that situation, but I could see that. But the fact is, Ford's on for Hall Johnson, so there's one quick big. Or not that you put a fullback up there. Like I said, it's Dalby and Palmer who you definitely need back defending. You put James Jones on, who, maybe is the most logical choice out of what's left on the pitch. McAlinden maybe, but again, he's supposed to be playing as a wing back, so he's going to have a key role already designated for the left wing back in the set piece marking. But, you know, James Jones, I wouldn't want to put up there because he's the sort of bloke who puts his body on the line to get a block in or win a tackle or get onto a 50-50 and get it away. So that's also, yeah, did we have the personnel to actually hold her up or sprint in behind at that point in the game? No, because we were set up to defend the box, weren't we?
We'll leave it at that then, Mark.
Yeah. Yes, we all agree that we don't agree with each other.
Well, you know, and then come the final whistle, the crowd absolutely erupted. The players, you know, we've got such a bond with that team. I think it's possibly the closest, since I've been supporting Wrexham, the closest bond that a team has had with the crowd. You know, the 98-point season was kind of close, but there's just something a little bit different about this team and the atmosphere at the club at the moment. Paul Mullin coming to do that shouty German thing that you know, like all the German teams do, and get everybody going, and a perfect storm, really, wasn't it? Everything just fell into place for us for the most part, and provided what was probably probably the best Wrexham game I've ever been to.
Oh,
probably.
Ein perfect Sturm.
Yeah, you got to remember us slightly younger fans. I mean, granted, I was saying to you earlier, Marcus, I was there for the Wrexham Middlesbrough game in 2000, but I was only about 9 then, and I only went to games on the odd occasion around that period. We've not had much joy, have we? Really?
No. I think it was nice for the younger fans to experience that, going to a bigger club and having a giant killing done with your own fans. And I think that's, you know, that solidifies your support for the club, and all people younger than you as well, Bill, you know, they're with their mums and dads, you know, they must have loved it, you know, and they think, Dad, when can we go to the next game? When can we go to the next game? I think that's all part of the whole experience. And I'm so pleased that they've actually been able to see the highs of following a football club, especially a hometown club. I think it's absolutely fantastic for the generations to come supporting the club.
We need to kids addicted, don't we? And
we do, yeah. And you know what? I can't claim that this is my own idea. I saw it on Twitter, and apologies for not remembering the user who posted it. But I've seen someone say that they felt like they got their club back again. Like the current owners buying the club felt like, look, we're not going to get critical of the trust, but there was that optimism of we're going to have some money, we're going to be able to challenge again. But this is actually a massive part of our DNA as a club. Giant killings is what makes us famous as a football club. It puts the town on the map. This is the first one first real one in like 20 odd years, and it's actually like almost getting why a lot of people fell in love with Wrexham back again, isn't it?
Definitely so. And you think what it's done for the American supporters watching that game, you know, on ESPN, you know, they think, wow, is that what football supporting a Welsh football team is all about? The passion and the singing. I mean, they're going to love it.
I mean,
I almost feel sorry for them, because when we hit a roadblock, they're not going to know what's hit them. They've only had good times so far.
But I was thinking the same thing. It was brilliant not just to share it with all those Wrexham fans who've been supporting for years, but also the new Wrexham fans who bring a fabulous enthusiasm to it all. Yeah, and there's, you can just see in the tweets and messages they send, there's this joyous sense of we're discovering something great, and in the best way possible. They're falling in love with football. A lot of them will explicitly say, never watched football before, not really a big fan of football, but getting into it by picking a team that's just not just winning, but is finding wonderfully exotic ways to win. I mean, there's somebody on Twitter was saying as well, again, I've forgotten who that was. We let in 5 goals against Dover. We let 5 goals in against Barnet. We let 3 goals in at Coventry, and we won them all. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous football, isn't it? It's really crazy football to watch. And what a wonderful introduction to the game it is.
Yeah, what a great journey we're all on, you know, which is only the start. I think this season's been basically the solidifying part in getting this team where he wants to get it. Maybe add a couple more in the transfer window. But I can only see great things ahead for this team and this club for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Perfect Sturm, just like you said, Bill.
Well, we've qualified for the next round now, and we've got Sheffield United as our next opponents. My initial reaction was a little bit of disappointment because, in a sense, you want Liverpool or United, or to a lesser degree Chelsea, Spurs, whoever. But actually, Sheffield United are a really big traditional club. Their fans will come and provide a bit of voice as well. It's not like some of the Wrexham games we have where there's like 50 odd fans, and it's going to be an interesting game, isn't it?
It'll be the same as the game we had on Coventry on Saturday, apart from we're at home. We're home's a fortress. We'll have maybe 9,000 fans there behind them as well, and I wasn't disappointed one iota. I was just hoping for any home game, to be honest, any home tie. And I think if it had been one of the Premiership teams or one of the big teams, would it take us? Would they be dreaming of playing them and take their eye off our league games? I don't know, but I'm quite happy we're just playing Sheffield United. As you say, they'll bring a good following. They'll sell out their allocation of away seats, which I should imagine will be about 1,200, and it'll be a great atmosphere at the end of the month.
Yeah, I mean, you could. What's the opposite of a sweet spot? They were in the Sheffield United sort of in the sour spot in a way of clubs that haven't got the sort of heft of Man United or Man City or the label of being a Premier League team, but are plenty strong enough to win a game like this. And yet, while I understand that some people are a little bit disappointed, I think it's a great draw because Sheffield United's a fabulous club. As you said, Neil, they will create a superb atmosphere there, and it's a brilliant test of us. Let's see what their view of the competition is and how much they might rotate. But by the same token, we've been going so well at home. Let's test ourselves against the best they've got to offer and see what we've got. Because ultimately, the bottom line is the league. If we go out in the fourth round to Sheffield United, there's absolutely no disgrace in that. We brought a lot of revenue in through this cup run. And if we win it, wow, we really are in remarkable territory, having got to the fifth round as a non-league side. So it's another shot to nothing, and it'll be a hell of an occasion. So I think, I like it. It's a good draw myself. Yeah,
it's definitely grown on me. It was initial reactions are always something, aren't they? But having a bit of time to dwell on it, I think it's almost perfect because it is a real FA Cup tie. It's a proper FA Cup tie. And if we'd have been playing City or someone, it might have been a bit of a circus, actually, mightn't it? And all the way the TV companies would be patronising us. But I don't think the coverage will be quite as bad when we're playing a team that aren't as glamorised as some of the Premier League teams. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Anything else to add, chaps?
I'd just like to say, a lot of the posts I've seen from the Coventry fans saying, how great our team was, and how magnificent support that we took down to Coventry, and how magnificent they were in defeat, and they say that the better team won, and they've been a great bunch of fans, and they're all a lot of them saying, we'll follow you as our second team because you're such a good club and you've got such a good bunch of players, and you shouldn't be in non-league, but hope to see you in a couple of seasons' time.
Yeah, there are parallels with the Brighton tie, aren't there? Where we made so many connections to Brighton, and obviously a lot of that is also to do with their support of us through our difficult times. But the Coventry fans' reaction, I think the same. I think we've been fortunate in those two big draws against big clubs that we've come up against a couple of very classy clubs that have made an impression on us as much as we have on them.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully Sheffield United will be the same. So after this quick break, we'll be wrapping up the show.
I'm Liam McClendon, and this is Dragonheart.
So an absolutely fantastic historical weekend, one for the history books. Probably go up there with some of the best Wrexham results ever. and a thoroughly enjoyable day. Thanks very much for listening. We have been Mark Griffiths, Bill Long, and Neil Williams. Anything you guys want to plug from the media stuff?
Everything I do. I don't know. It's not true. The highlights are weird because it's got our commentary on, and it's not a video commentary. So there's the odd peculiar aside, which I'd like to apologise for. But it's the usual thing, isn't it? We love doing all these different stuff. I love doing the Ask Wrexham podcast, by the way, and they really open up to quite a broad audience, and they're an absolute joy to do.
Yeah, for anybody who's not had the chance to watch the Ask Wrexham podcast yet, Mark, would you like to just give a quick rundown of what that's about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, essentially, I started using the hashtag Ask Wrexham just to allow fans to interact with the commentary team during the match and ask questions. And before the takeover, it was good, but we didn't get a loss. There were some games where we had nobody interacting. And yet, since the takeover, I mean, there are so many new fans following us from overseas. The commentary's free, of course. And so before bringing in the streaming, we were the first point of contact. If they wanted live interaction with the club, we were the only ones, in a way, who would provide it. And Ask Wrexham exploded massively. It's very flattering for all of us, and we're delighted that a lot of fans, now they are streaming the game, still sync our commentary with it rather than use the audio on the streams. That's lovely to hear. But Ask Wrexham has exploded to the extent that I thought we'd have to start a separate show, simply because there's no way we get round to all the Ask Wrexham questions during the commentary. It's just impossible now because there's so many. And also there's so many brilliant questions. You need a platform to answer, maybe answer them again for people who weren't listening to the commentary. So it's basically answering people's questions. Some are from new fans asking for clarification. Some are from older fans, who've been supporting the club and know more than I do. And it's a lovely mix, but it's a treat to do it, and it really is. It's fun to reminisce about footy matches that I'd forgotten, of which there are many.
And where can they listen to this, Mark?
It's on the club's YouTube channel as a video, and it's also on the club's podcast channels as well. But if you put hashtag Ask Wrexham and podcast into Google, blam, it's going to appear. Right,
and that's hashtag ASKWXM, not the full word Wrexham, but yeah.
That's true. Yes, absolutely right.
Yeah, and just make sure you listen to us on the Wrexham Player through the Wrexham website. Every game we cover, and which Mark said is free to everybody listening and can be listened to anywhere in the world. Yeah,
and fantastic coverage it is. If you want impartial coverage that is accurate and completely down the middle, neutrality, do not listen to Wrexham Player. But if you want to hear Neil cheering and singing like we all want to, then definitely get on the Wrexham Player commentary. I love it. I'm lucky enough to be part of it sometimes, but you guys are fantastic when I do have a chance to listen. Anyway, so yeah, don't forget to follow us on all the socials, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get your updates. It does help the club and it helps us grow, so please make sure you do that. We've been Bill Long, Mark Griffiths and Neil Williams.
I'm Harry Lennon and this is Dragonheart.